I'm going to be honest with you. When I was designing these slides, these PowerPoint slides, I actually thought this looked really cool. It looked really funky, but now it's up on a big 75-inch computer screen. It looks a little bit weird to me, like a big freaky head here. But that's perhaps just my perception. Perhaps my perception is being warped and influenced by some sort of experience that I've had in the past in some way. What do you think? Do you like this or do you not like this PowerPoint, this image? And if you do like it, why do you like it? What are you relating it to? If you don't like it, why not? What are you relating it to? Isn't it good when we start to better understanding ourselves? Many people go through lives, don't they? I like this. I don't like that. I like you. I don't like you. It's kind of like we go around, don't we? Pointing our little fingers at people, determining who we like, who we don't like, who's good, who's bad, who's okay, who's not okay, without even taking time to get to know them. All right. So this ABC of CBT model, I found this to be absolutely life transforming, and I hope that you're going to find it to be equally as transforming. Very, very simple idea. But again, this is not something that we get taught in school, all right? It's something that I had to spend multiple thousands of pounds to be presented with this idea. So the ABC of CBT breaks our interpretation of life events down into 3 different areas, all right? The A's just simply refers to activating life events, activators, all right? Now, if I was to ask you about a problem that you have in your life right now, you're realistically not going to have a problem given reference to the activator, all right? This could be a problematic relationship. It might have been a conversation with someone that you've had at some point. It could be a life experience that you've had, a win or a loss, or perhaps the death of a loved one, or you've had a personal history of failure or rejection or letdown, or wins and successes and all these kinds of things. And some of your personal history will have influenced your expectations that you have of the future and all this kind of thing. And here's the thing, all right? Sometimes we focus more on the events that trigger us than on how it is that we can actually influence how it is that we're responding to the events that trigger us. All right? This is one of the first steps that we can take towards becoming more responsible for ourselves and ultimately more empowered through the process. Now, this model is like a personal discipline, so there's no point in just taking notes right now. It's imperative that we actually apply this model to ourselves because we're all going to be operating out of habits. As Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis, they were both in agreement when he said 9 times out of 10, bad habits, right? Habitual patterns of thinking and dysfunctional behaviour that sometimes just leads us up the garden path in life, sometimes ends up leading us absolutely nowhere good. So this ABC of CBT model kind of looks like this. Activating events happen. Now, if we focus on these activating events and are completely unaware of how we're internally processing these experiences, we're not necessarily going to be aware of the thoughts that we're thinking about these things, the assumptions that we're making about those people, those conversations, those experiences. We're most likely not going to be aware of how we're actually interpreting this event. We just do this automatically. It's kind of like this B part of the ABC of CBT just is part of the process that we're not even aware of. It's like the invisible part. It just happens unconsciously. Now, I could give you and share with you very, very briefly a psychodynamic theory from the late, great Sigmund Freud. He was referred to as one of the fathers of psychoanalytical thinking. That kind of came before cognitive thinking. Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, they both studied the psychoanalytical school of psychological thought as well. And one of Sigmund Freud's signature ideas, one of the ones that's pretty much made it into every single psychology textbook that's ever been written, was the iceberg theory. There's a pretty good chance that you've heard of this, that we have the conscious mind, we have the subconscious mind, and then we have the unconscious mind. And he referred to the human mind kind of like an iceberg, where we have parts of our mind and our interpretive life that we're aware of, i.e. we're aware of what we're looking at right now, we're aware of what we're thinking about right now, we're aware of what we are hearing right now, what we're sensing right now. We might even be aware of something that happened 5 minutes ago. But that's our conscious mind. Our subconscious mind is a little bit deeper. It's kind of lies a little bit deeper beneath the surface. Our subconscious mind contains all of the experiences, all of the main events of our pasts we can remember, but just aren't in the forefront of our minds. So if I was to ask you, for example, what was the happiest day of your life? You might have to stop, think about it for a few seconds, and then it will most likely come to you. Why? Because it was meaningful. If I was to ask you about the most hurtful day of your life, you most likely won't have to give that too much thought either, because it's just kind of there beneath the surface. You can tap into this in the subconscious part of your mind with relative ease. But if I was to ask you, why haven't you done all the things with your life that you really wanted to do? Why is it that you have that problem relating to certain people in a certain way sometimes? We're asking bigger questions now, all right? Our beliefs tend to operate more from the unconscious part of our mind, which is way, way, way down here. Learned habits, learned attitudes, learned behaviours, learned responses. Have you ever just reacted or responded to a certain person for some reason, then afterwards you say to yourself, my goodness, why did I do that? It was like I just instinctively reacted or responded. I don't even understand myself. I don't know why I done that. Right? We're talking about how it is that we've learned to react and respond to circumstances, people, situations in life. Right? There's lessons that we learn on an unconscious level. There's lessons that we learn consciously. And then once they become less relevant to us, they kind of drop down into the subconscious. So this is pretty much why when you ask a person, what they believe, and if you were to start having a conversation or debating, with a person about what they believe, they're going to get very, very protective, very, very defensive sometimes. Why? Because we don't always really fully understand what we believe. We might have some opinions about things and mistake our opinions for our beliefs, but our beliefs tend to operate on a deep, unconscious level. All right, this is what CBT really looks to work with, to draw out of the unconscious and into the conscious. Once we understand the beliefs that a person is functioning out of, we can then start working with them and modifying them, tweaking and changing them. We do this through asking appropriate questions that provoke our clients to reflect upon themselves, their circumstances or situations from different perspectives. That's all. So, the B part of the ABCs of CBT is all to do with our beliefs that can, or all cognitions, if you like, right? Thoughts, assumptions, interpretations, judgments, and ultimately our attitude as well, all which kind of merge into one. But this all happens unconsciously. What we are always going to be aware of are the consequences, all right? This part's easy in the same way that these are easy. We focus on them, we know what they are, and what we generally tend to do as imperfect human being is we blame activating life events, i.e. relationships, people, conversations, life experiences, personal history, all this kind of thing, as being the reason why we have the consequences that we have. All right? So when we have a sensation, if we have a feeling, an undesired emotion, we get angry, or we perhaps get a little bit anxious or apprehensive or scared or livid or enraged or something like this. We respond or react or behave in a certain way. What do? Well, when we're not aware of ourselves, we say, that person made me feel like this. That person made me feel like that. This person said this thing and it made me feel enraged or really apprehensive or really fearful or really anxious or really depressed or, like I just wanted to go and shrivel up under a rock and die. And what people don't understand is the part that their cognitions play in the process. What most people do is they say A equals C. A equals C. But it doesn't work like this, all right? This is the natural process of our human experience. We have activating life events. Stuff happens to us. But it's how we interpret these events, B, what we go on to believe or what belief we're operating out of, that ultimately then determines the consequence, how we go on to feel or how we go on to act or behave or habitually respond. All right? So when we understand this, we can start to identify the areas in which we need to start making shifts. All right? This gives us a starting point as cognitive behavioral therapists. All right? Very, very simple idea, but it's profound. All right? And you might be saying to yourself right now, yes, 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 I've heard this, I've got this before. And in how many areas and aspects of your life do you not apply this? When was the last time that you took offense? Do you have any emotional imbalance in your life right now? Because if the answer is yes, then you've got an issue going on in here somewhere. And this is what we need to explore. You've got to check yourself before you wreck yourself any further or wreck someone else through the process. And this is why, as cognitive behavioral therapists, it's imperative that we go there first. If we are not aware of ourselves, then we're not going to be able to manage ourselves. And if we cannot manage ourselves and regulate ourselves effectively, we are going to be extremely ineffective at influencing or helping other people to manage themselves, because we are not going to be able to see what's going on for them. So in order to be effective in helping other people, we've got to be willing to go there first. We've got to get good at identifying how it is that our beliefs and cognitions and thought processes and assumptions and interpretations and judgments and how our attitude sometimes sabotages our best of intentions. Because it's only when we can appreciate this and identify it clearly that we can start to become the conduits of change in our own lives that we actually need to be. It's then and only then that we become qualified and competent to best serve other people through exactly the same process.